Hey up and welcome to Sutton Bank National Park Centre. I'm Guy Kesterman and I've been riding the North York Moors with its incredible diverse landscape for pretty much my entire life. So today I'm your guide for the Moorland Meander, the shortest and most easily accessible route of 3 new gravel explorer routes being set up here at Sutton Bank. Basing the routes out of the National Park Centre here gives you amazing facilities. We've got public conveniences, we've got bike tools, a little workstation there, we've got Sutton Bank bikes with its bike hire, electric bike hire, bikes for all the family in fact. We've got a full range of cycle trails right here at the National Park Centre itself. So we've got a pump track, we've got kids skills training loop, we've got the National Park Centre shop itself, which is absolutely full of fantastic gifts and mementos to take away, as well as really interesting displays showcasing everything that goes on in this amazing bit of beautiful northern England. And then we've got the Truffled Hog, the new cafe opened here that's ready and waiting when you come back from your rides. And there's plenty to do off the bike too. Picnic areas, little historical recreations, bird feeding areas, and a whole kind of outdoor adventure park to keep your kids and family amused. So, as I say, this is the first and shortest of the 3 gravel explorer routes, and I'll talk to you a little bit about the fantastic history, the nature, and all the different landscapes we're travelling through as we head round with me, Derek, and my mate Glyn. So, going to pay for my parking, hop on our bikes, and let's get into the Moorland Meander. So, first part of the ride, we're on a quiet public road, so if you're riding with family, make sure you keep your ducklings in a row. But it's a nice easy start on the tarmac, and we get into the big views straight away. And the first turn here, onto the cycle path, as ably demonstrated by Derek and Glyn. So we're already off-road and enjoying exactly what makes gravel and mountain biking great. Chance to get away from the traffic and onto natural routes, but move significantly quicker than you could if you were rambling. And while this is it's titled a gravel route, you can do it on any bike you want with reasonably chunky tyres. So we're all riding gravel bikes today, but it'll work on a mountain bike, it'll work on a hybrid, and to be honest, you'll be fine on a touring bike as well. So the whole idea is to make these routes as accessible and inclusive as possible, whether that's in terms of bike type or type of rider, which is why I've made sure this 25k Moorland Meander route is relatively flat. And the only really big hill, we've made sure that there's a really good calf at the top of it. And there's a separate video for each of the 3 routes, but what you'll notice is they all start following the same trails. And the idea with that is, you might not know how far you're going to get. So you can start on the shorter one, and if you're feeling frisky, then you can continue on to the Revo Raider, which is a 35km route, and that takes you east down to the beautiful ruined abbey at Revo, and adds a bit more climbing and a little bit of single track into the mix. Or if you're feeling really epic, you can extend right out to the Hambleton Horizons Tour, which is 50km all the way up to Osmotherley on the northwestern corner of the North York Moors National Park, where there's a youth hostel for an overnight, pubs, village shops, and that adds quite a lot more climbing, to be fair, but the views and sense of wilderness you get on that ride are absolutely fantastic. And of course, there's nothing to stop you mixing and matching different elements of all 3 rides. Because that's the whole point of these explorer routes. It's about getting you out into the countryside in your bike and just letting you experience a wonderful community and environment that's waiting out here on the North York Moors for you. And you can hear the skylarks and the oyster catchers and the curlews, and that big mound there, it's actually a Bronze Age burial mound, so about 3,000 years old, and there's hundreds of them in this part of the North York Moors, over 3,000 in the North York Moors in general. And then here's what this route and Sutton Bank is famous for: its incredible views over the Vale of Mowbray. Derek's stopping to take it all in. So it really is an incredible vista over Heriot land. And talking about ancient history, these lumps and bumps that we're climbing up now are actually the remains of the ramparts of an ancient Iron Age hill fort. One of two at Sutton Bank. One covered in trees at Hood Hill, and this one more in the open, but still just goes to show what an important area this has been down throughout history. Plus it's a nice little fun roller coaster. And now we're heading north towards Boltby Forest. It's a lovely bit. I mean, you can find bits of single track like this on the moors all over, through the valleys to the west, right over to the great forest of Cropton and Dalby, Broxer. But it's great to have a superb example of it right here on the most accessible edge of the moors. And just look at those views. Just don't look at them too much, because you don't want to drop off the edge. And also bear in mind that these views and this amazing riding and walking does attract a lot of visitors. So let's keep everything friendly, be nice, say hi, and if you're on a bike, give way, because you're going to be covering more ground and you'll find yourself alone and enjoying the peace and freedom that gravel biking out here on the North York Moors can give you, sooner than people in a procession of hikers. But yeah, and also make sure you open and shut any gates behind you so that livestock don't wander, because we've got a great reputation here with the farmers and locals. I want to keep it that way. And if you like the more lumpy, bumpy, single track sections of this route, and you've got a mountain bike, then why not give the mountain bike trails heading out from Sutton Bank a go as well? 3 of those too, plus they're all way marked. And we're just riding above the Fort Trail now, with the Paradise Trail ahead. So if you're following them, then make sure you look for these signs. And as well as following the countryside code, while we've kept this route away from traffic as much as possible, do obviously be careful at the points where it crosses a road, like here at Boltby Bank. And now we've just heading across the top of Boltby Forest to give you a taste of the amazing riding available in the forests that cover a lot of the North York Moors over on the east side, where you can put together excellent gravel routes that mix a rich forest and wide open moorland, and of course the stunningly rugged coast of this amazing landscape. And here's that climb we were on about at the start, but it's not that long, and it's a one-way road to Paradise Farm Calf, so there's very little traffic on it, and it's a well-surfaced tarmac road, so it made it as easy as possible for you. And this is the undoubted hospitality highlight of the route: High Paradise Farm Calf. run by Sausage the dog and his owner Ginny, and their staff of eager 2- and 4-legged helpers. Amazing home-cooked food, cream teas, a little mini shop as well for bike spares in case you need anything out here. All sorts of Jollity Farm animals that like to get involved, and it can even stay here. But yeah, unfortunately, we're a bit early for it this morning, so we'll carry on the loop with the snacks we brought with us. Short on legs, but big on welcomes. And now we're on to the off-road section of the ancient drovers route that was used to move cattle between Scotland and the south of England. I mean, massively important sort of livestock motorway in the Middle Ages and medieval period, but likely used, like all these other ridgeway trails, way back into the prehistoric era, when the lowlands were still heavily forested and full of all sorts of dangers. It made sense to bring your cattle up here and keep a better eye on them. And now it's just an amazing route to ride on a bike, or walk, or take your horse on. They're all welcome, but obviously we're here on 2 wheels. And I just think bikes are a brilliant way to experience this landscape. And think of all the stories that have been trodden and hoofed and scuffed into these trails over probably the best part of 10,000 years or more. It's like a historic highway soap opera, I always think. And then we've got a bit more Boltley Forest for some shelter and single track. And then it's time to give you a taste of the wild, wide open North York Moors heather landscape. And if you don't have somebody talking at you all the time, the tranquility out here in the forests and the moors, just the crunch of tyres and the birdsong. Oh, it's just the deep clean your head needs sometimes. And as we climb up to the high point of the route now, heading towards Kepwick, not only have we got stunning moorland over to the east, but also just over that wall, if you were here 3,000 years ago, you'd see a full Bronze Age barrow cemetery and some long barrows as well. So really important, high status ceremonial area back in the prehistoric period. And don't just watch these videos or check out the route PDF, you know, have a dig around in the history of this whole area, because it's been a fascinating place for thousands of years. I'm going on about this a bit too much. You can tell I used to be an archaeologist perhaps, but I just love getting lost in this landscape. Like I say, been riding it for, it must be 40 years now, and it just never fails to enthrall, enchant, entertain, and sometimes provide quite a wild experience as well, because when you're up here and it's windy and wet, you know, you'll know a bit about the moorland, but then the views you get are just amazing. But yeah, going back to that point, make sure you bring everybody in an anorak and maybe one more snack than you think you might need, and some water, because yeah, it's 25k. That's quite a big ride for a lot of folks. So make sure you make it as enjoyable as it can be. And if you're feeling fresh and frisky at this point, or just want to know where the big routes go, straight on over Black Hambleton Hill, that track takes you all the way to Hambleton Horizons route. That's double the length of this one, and then you come back up the climb there. But we're making a turn. Don't ride one-handed, kids, especially on loose stuff like this, because, you know, as you can see, there is a variety of terrain. Nothing too taxing and technical, but if you're not used to off-road riding, then this is a great introduction to it, because there's enough of each bit to kind of get your eye in. And of course, if you feel a bit worried, not quite comfortable riding it, then there's absolutely nothing to stop you hopping off, just walking for a bit, and really taking in these incredible views. And while we're talking about other routes, this section is shared with the Revo Raider. That just drops a bit deeper into the dale, Rydale in fact, which means more hills and another 10 kilometres of distance. And then, the whole point of this series is to give you loads of options as your interest, fitness, curiosity and enjoyment of this wonderful area grows, as I can almost guarantee it will from this introductory ride. And this is where we start our journey back to the visitor centre at Sutton Bank and split away from the Revo Raider route over on the left.
That would definitely be a Patreon special.
And the great thing about riding on wide open spaces like this is, unlike the road, you can have a chat to your mates as you're going along without worrying about traffic or anything like that. So many different types of scenery and terrain to enjoy in such a small area. With this grazing land and then rich agricultural land right on the edge of wild moorland. So obviously, you know, respect the fact it's a working environment. Watch your speed, you know, don't spook the livestock, and make sure everybody enjoys us being out here on the North York Moors. Oh, a little rocky downhill section. Whee! And now we're coming up to a bridleway crossroads, but we're gonna head back up this beautiful old dry stone wall on a bit of a lumpy bumpy double track. But this gives you the option of another sitting at Paradise Farm if you're starting to feel a bit peckish and you're not sure you're going to make it back all the way to Sutton Bank and the Truffled Hog without getting hungry, or even worse, hangry. So there's Paradise Farm again, if you need topping up with tea and scones, or straight down the Drovers Road in the other direction back to Sutton Bank for finishers medals. Morning. And then we're just turning right up here back to the amazing views. And this is the view that James Herriot of the famous All Creatures Great and Small vet novels called the finest view in all of England. And if you come right to the edge, you can see Lake Gormire as well, which is an ancient glacial lake formed from the retreat of the last ice age. And then Vale of Mowbray all the way around. On a clear day, you can see all the way to the Dales and right down towards York in that direction. But just absolutely stunning. What do you reckon, gents?
It's fantastic. Yeah, absolutely. This is why you come to Yorkshire.
And now for the final section, make sure you keep to the dedicated cycle path on the left. So that's the Ramblers route. Over on the right hand side there. And be ready for a few little twisty corners and a little up and down to spice up the final section and maybe get you interested in trying one of the more challenging routes, or even the mountain bike routes, or of course the skills areas and pump track back at the National Park Centre. I think Glyn and Derek have got the centre cake at the Truffled Hog. Flying finish. So, hope you've enjoyed coming along the Moorland Meander with me, Derek and Glyn, but I cannot overemphasise just how much more you'll get out of coming up here and riding any of these three Gravel Explorer routes all the mountain bike routes, the beginners section, the skills loop, or even the pump track up here at the National Park Centre at Sutton Bank. Because that's the whole point of these videos. Get more people on the moors and more bikes enjoying this incredible landscape more. I think that's enough moors for anyone.
Perfect.